access these websites. That is the only thing it tells about. Where and it's like W3C, it's denoted as, which is called as World Wide Web Consortium. Consortium is nothing but a group. So what it means is it maintains WW standards, and it gives you a standard web, and it gives you recommendations. It tells all about these things. So this can be why it is called as W3 is because most of the well-known organizations like IBM, Microsoft, or Apple, or Adobe, all this comes into this group. Actually, these all group made some standards. That is what it is called as W3C group. Okay, so when coming to this, we also need to know about what is client technology and what is server-side technologies. This plays a very important role in designing or developing the web portals or applications or websites. Okay, so generally websites or websites are of two types, like static and dynamic. There are two types of websites generally. So static, we also know, and this is completely a client-side scripting. Static is completely built with client-side scripting, and dynamic is a combination of client-side and server-side scripting. So we might heard about this client-side and client-side technologies and server-side technologies. So what are they actually? So we might have heard about the client architecture, client and server architectures, and server architectures. So all this, what it says is like client is something the user, the other user, or the end user access it, able to access these technologies. Especially we can say HTML, CSS, JavaScript. These are the three important scripting languages where usually we see that while accessing all our static websites. So for just for developing a static web application or website, these three are very important. This plays very important: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So again, HTML again comes like HTML 4, 5, and CSS like 2, 3, and JavaScript also like you can get into the jQuery, Dojo. There are many other things like Backbone.js. There are frameworks as well as libraries into JavaScript. So the basic things are HTML, CSS, JavaScript for any client-side website. So these are called as a client-side technologies. And why it is called as a client-side technologies? Because the source of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can be visible to everyone, even though like you access the browser. So for example, when you see any website, Amazon.in. So here you can see a website or a web application, whatever you say. So here you see all the website, which we can say that this is something of images. On the very first glance, we can say that it's a couple of images or some text or fonts and font sizes and a few colorful fonts. That is what my first impression as a non-technical. So I can see that only few images and the font, like a text. That's it. Nothing more than that. I can see only as a two things for a non-technical side. So when you see that, right click and view page source. So you can see lots of stuff. All this is called as a source. This can be called as a source code or whatever it is. Like you can see divs, tables, options, select, lot of things. These are all called as a combination. The source code may include HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So all the source related to JavaScript, HTML, and CSS can be accessible, can be downloadable, can be copied anywhere else. So that is the reason we call it as a client side technology, because a client, a end user, can able to see your source code. So this is completely dependent on your browser, web browser. So there is no control to stop accessing this view source for the other end. So that is the reason we call it as client side. And for static websites are built only using these technologies, and it doesn't have a security. So everyone can see your code, copy your code, and they can easily implement that code. For example, you can see this. What I'll do is, I'll just, okay, one second. Let's go with the bbc.com. So what I'll do, this is a website. It's a popular website where you can see this is a dynamic website. So still for a non-technical, that doesn't mean what is dynamic and what is static. So what I'll do, I just put it as save as, and my computer desktop. So okay, let it be as it is. I'm just saving it a folder, BBC, and here I'm saying it. So when you go to the desktop, when you see a BBC over here, what happened? Yeah, here it comes. So what I'll do, I got the few files, an HTML file and a folder directory, and that directory has some images and some JS files and some CSS files, nothing more than that. So usually what we can see is like CSS files, JS files, and few images, which might be a JPEG image or GIF images. So what I'll do, coming back, I just wanted to access this page. Just wanted to see what it has been saved. It's still getting all the files. It is a big website, so a lot of HTML, a lot of CSS, a lot of JS is getting loaded. Second. Trying to get some static websites. So just for, I think it is getting, because of too much of JavaScript, the browser is getting stuck. Anyways, see, when you save that, whatever, you can get all the HTML, CSS files and JS files which are related to that BBC channel news. So when you see that the URL, it says like the file is getting pulled from the local system. So it's like C users desktop something BBC folder. So it means that almost you can get all the styles and CSS similar to the BBC news. So this will be exactly can be copied and again reclone it, and you can use it. Of course, you will be having a copyrights as well, but still you can do all the things. So in order to avoid these kind of things, usually we cannot do anything because we don't have any control over the client side technologies. So that is the reason we also go with the server side technologies in the combination with the client side technologies. So whenever you see a web application, all the web application, irrespective of the technology you use, the technology like Microsoft technologies or Java technologies or an open source like PHP or Drupal technologies, you need HTML, CSS, JavaScript. This is common. Client side technologies are common for every server side technologies. So that is why it's called as a client side technology, because it is completely dependent on the browser. So what are the server side technologies then? So server side technologies, you might be heard about Java technology, Java, or Microsoft technologies like .NET or PHP. So these are called as a server side technologies because their source is secured and cannot be visible or copied by the other user. That is the reason it is called as server side technologies, and the end user cannot manipulate your functionality in the application. That is the reason they are called as a server side technologies. And all the compilation, all the execution of the code will be done only in the servers, not in the user machine. So you might also get a doubt saying that HTML, CSS, JavaScript also will get, like compiled or executed in a server, but that is not right, because HTML and CSS will behavior will be different from browser to browser. A Chrome will display in a different manner, and a Firefox may display in a different way when compared with the Chrome. So every browser will show you, the look and feel will be different. So that is why we can say that all the HTML, CSS, JavaScript will be executed or compiled in your web browser, in your web browser engine, that is called as a browser engine. So that is the reason they are called as the client side technologies and can be manipulated. Client side technologies always can be manipulated. For example, for instance, something, for example, this is a registration form of some website. When I click on the register, it gives you an alert saying that a first name, last name, solution, or whatever the form field should be filled before you click on the register. So this all is handling with the JavaScript. So what I'll do is like, if I don't like that, what I'll do is like, I can disable the JavaScript user browser settings, Mozilla Firefox. So it's all like, if I disable the JavaScript, no alerts will be popped up on your screen. And what happens is when you click on the register, without any security, this form gets submitted. It means a blank data will be submitted to the server. It means like the data, a blank data will be saved into the SQL server or a database. So to avoid these kind of issues, you usually not, always depend on the client side technologies. We also depend on the server side technologies. So that's the reason it is more secure, and we prefer all the executions will be done in the executions will be done on web browsers, browser engine. But when it comes to server side, executions or compilations will be done at web servers. So there's a lot of difference between a web server and a web browser. Web browser is a client, end user uses And web server is something which is already installed on your server. Like examples of web server are Apache, IIS, Tomcat. You might be familiar with these names. So usually, generally, you might be heard about Tomcat and IIS. So IIS is a web server used for .NET, used by Microsoft technologies. All your Microsoft applications need IIS server. When you see your applications backend, it runs IIS in the backend, so that it. And for Tomcat, usually know about the Java. Java will run on Tomcat, and Apache usually it can run PHP or any .NET or Java. The beautiness of Apache is like, I mean, like the language of PHP is like it can run on IIS, Tomcat, and Apache. That is a biggest advantage when it comes to open source technologies. Forget about that as of now. So web server can be installed only on the server machine. A server machine can be our user machine or can be another machine. So a machine can act as a web server, also can act as a client server. So forget about those differences as of now, but just you need to remember what is the client side technologies, what are the server side technologies. So this is very important that you need to understand, because even if you are a UI developer or designer, you need to understand what are the server side technologies, just for information. Why? Because when you are working on the HTML, CSS, JavaScript in your real time, it's not always that easy that you will be always getting HTML files, CSS files, and JavaScript in a flat files. What happens is like you will be getting the some Java related files or some .NET related files or some PHP related files where you where they wanted you to work on the HTML part in the Java files. So at that moment you also need to know what is a Java and .NET. I mean, just the markup of Java, markup of the .NET is essential. So that is the reason I'm telling all these things. And coming to the our subject, like we were saying, like what static websites and dynamic websites. And static websites are like completely into client side technologies only. So I was telling about web development and web designing. So there's a little difference on that. So when you come into the web development, or you can also say that UI development as well. UI is just only the look and feel, user interface. You mostly deal with the UI development, usually deal with the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and web development usually deals with the server side and client side technologies, both. So that is the difference between both. And web designing is something which is a pre-stage to UI or web development. It means when you see a website of this kind, usually we know this website is built on HTML, CSS, JavaScript by default. We know that. But before building this website, we need to know, we will be having a mocks. What are these mocks? The mocks are something where you can say as a wireframes, rough sketches. Usually we generally do it on our blackboard or white screens before doing any, which before having any such plan. So what it means is like generally we'll be having a blackboard conferences or like a sketches, rough sketches, where we will be, I mean, like there would be a team of 10 to 20 members or maybe more or less. So usually all the people will be usually planning about how the website should be. So the client will be our, I mean, our clients will be there, and our developers will be there, or a designers will be there, or a managers will be there, where they decide what kind of website are we going to design or a develop. So before a developing, we need a design, and before the design, we need a rough sketches, or before the rough sketches, we need the requirement. So these are all called as the phases of the, I mean, like software development cycle. So when you get into the work, usually these things will be obviously you will be knowing. So first the requirement will be there, and based upon that the estimations will be done and analysis will be done, and based upon that the rough sketches will be made. And if the client approves that he likes the concept, then he approves for the designing. So what designing is? Designing usually as a Photoshop, where they will usually give a designs which is called as a PSD files also, which are called as a PSD files also. So what it means is they just give you a image type of thing. For example, hmm, one second. So this is a website you're seeing. So likewise, you will be having an image or a Photoshop file of same. It's a replica of that. So that will be designed by the web designer, not with by the web developer. Developer doesn't have a knowledge on Photoshop. So he will be completely working on the design part, also the logo part also. For example, this is a logo part. This cannot be developed by HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So this logo will be developed by the designers. So I mean, like all this, whatever the few things cannot be done with the HTML, CSS. All those things, I mean, like can be developed in Photoshop. Those are called as a mocks. Those are called as a mocks or .psd files or rough sketches, whatever, based upon your organization policy. So before that, so Photoshop plays a major role, and there are other tools as also, Adobe tools. They need to know about these things before getting into HTML. And later, the last part is HTML, CSS, JavaScript for them. But when it comes to the UI development, they are not required to know the Photoshop or Adobe tools. The first intention and focus should be on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then server side technologies if they are interested. This is how they are categorized. So I'm sure, pretty sure that you are not into designing, because generally for designing you don't require any computer or programming skills. And for UI development, at least you need a basics like a C language, at least a basics in JavaScript. HTML, CSS flat static, but JavaScript is somewhere you can apply logic towards that, and it's a programming script also. You can call it as a partial programming language also, JavaScript. So that is the reason I've been asking you whether you are into UI development or into UI designing. So I'm sure that you are clear about this now. So any questions?
I'm good.
Yes, sir. Me too.
What is that?
I'm good too, sir.
So is fine, right?
Yes, sir.
Everyone. Okay. So this is an initial introduction to you, just to have a clear knowledge on what is client side, what is server side, and what is a web, what is internet, something else. So all our web applications usually will be done on HTTP protocol, and all will be hosted on www, which is called as a World Wide Web. So World Wide Web can be accessed only through internet. So, and nowadays you might be knowing that lot of web portals, web applications are getting into the picture, because when you see 5 to 6 years back, or like a decade ago, you might be seeing very less of web portals or web applications. And at that moment, at that time, we were used to desktop applications rather than web, right? So there is a difference again between a desktop and web. Desktop applications and web applications. Why there's a lot demand is growing for the web applications? There's a few major concerns with the desktop application. That is where the demand has been for web applications. So generally a desktop application doesn't require any browser, doesn't, and completely dependent on the OS, dependent on OS. So for example, a Microsoft Outlook can only work on a Windows application, Windows OS, not on the Linux OS. And something else like when you see that Internet Explorer also, this browser will be worked compatible with the Windows OS, not for the Linux or Mac, something other than that. So when I develop a desktop application, I need to consider three OS mainly. One is Windows, next is Linux, and the third one is Mac. So I can't invest and afford to develop an application for three OS. That is a big drawback. And I'm not sure because there are lot many OS in the market. Like I may use Windows 7, few may use Windows, like a something XP, or might be a lower than that as well, or somewhere server 2002 or 2008, whatever it is. So there will be always an issue of compatibility issues with the application which we have developed. And there is also a big security threat. Why it is a threat? Because we usually see uh, when I wanted to install some software in my machine, I download an software which says .exe extension. For example, when I download Skype, I just what I'll do is Skype download for Windows, something else. So I can see a some link or might be some. So what I will do is like I just simply I download it. So what it will give you an exe file. It is a Windows package. So do we really able to verify that application, verify that file? No, we cannot until unless you install it and until unless you run it. So only thing you can see is a file name. When you see an exe files, yeah, for example, zoom installer.exe. So this file says zoom installer.exe. What it means, like I may assume that okay, it may install some zoom installer. But what if I put it like something else, like Gmail installer? Would you able to know that really it is a Zoom or a Gmail? No. So what happens if I'm a professional hacker? So what I can do is like I'll just put my file with the name of Gmail installer, Gtalk installer. What the people will do? Just they will download it and they try to install it or run the file. Until unless you install it completely, you never knows whether it is a desktop application related to Zoom or Gtalk or some other things. So in the background of your OS, the hacker will install some software in your machine, and everything, your data can be transferred easily. So that is a big security threat. So that is the reason most of the users or organizations are avoiding applications or desktop applications for a simple functionality or simple applications. Only they are premium, they're not going to install it. So that is the reason it's a big security threat. And coming to, so that is where there is a less demand for desktop applications nowadays. So web application, what is the advantage of web applications is no dependency with OS. It means whether the user, I don't need to worry whether my application or the user who downloaded my application is uses Linux or Windows or Mac. Perfectly it works. Only thing it really requires is a web browser. It is dependent on the web browser. On web browser. So a browser, usually the most popular web browsers nowadays we use is a Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, or Safari, right? So these, most of the web applications will be developed or usually developed on the basis of these web browsers. And now I don't need to worry about the users who are using a OS. So Linux also it works, Windows also it works, or any other Mac also it works. And security, why it is a good in terms of advantage in terms of desktop application is you don't need to install anything or any software on the user's machine. You just need a URL, and that URL just copy and simply paste on the browser. That will completely work. A simple a URL with www.skype.com/something en. Simply it gives you the application. So it is completely dependent on the browser, and very less security is required, and no further multiple installations are required on your machine. So that is the biggest advantage. So that is where web come into place. And so all the browsers understand HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but only thing is their behavior might change between different browsers. That is the only thing we need to look into these things. So our application development is not important. The application developed is should be very much compatible with all the browsers is important. So no one, no one considers that you have developed a good website until unless that web application or website is compatible with all the browsers. You need to consider all the browsers. It means like I may use a different browser, you may use a different browser. So that is the challenging part in UI development. Designing simply, he can do on a Photoshop, and Photoshop file will be accessed only on a Photoshop software. So definitely the behavior will be almost similar in all the machines. But when it comes to the UI development, that varies. So that is a challenging part. Okay. Now comes is like difference between the scripting and languages. We generally heard about a lot of times. What is the difference between scripting and languages? We usually heard a lot of things like there is a C language, C++, Java language, .NET, lot of things, C sharp, whatever it is, PHP. There are a lot many languages. We rarely heard about scripting languages. So a lot of people get confused about the scripting language and the programmatical language. Scripting languages usually we heard about like we can say HTML, CSS, or sorry, JavaScript, VB script also. Nowadays we are not using VB script, but still these are called as, and you can also say Perl is also a scripting language, by the way. And languages, Java is a language, C is a language, C++ is a language, and again .NET and some PHP, Python. So these are all called as the languages. So it might, there might be different issues between these languages as well, like security or whatever it is. But we are only categorized as a scripting and language. We are talking about scripting and languages. So this doesn't require any, programming language for it. For example, in HTML is very loose. All this loosely typed languages. It's called as a loosely typed languages. It means that it's not that case sensitive, and also like even if you forget of putting, placing any markups or the tags, it will take care of, the browser will take care of those things. So it doesn't worry about the whether it is a loosely typed or strictly typed. But these languages are not like that. They are strictly typed programming language. Why strictly typed? A similar instance, usually in a C language we usually see that hash include stdio.h. If even if you put double o or something else, it won't allow you. It will give you a errors saying that your headers are not valid or whatever it is. So it means that it won't allow you loosely typed and as you wish, it won't allow you. So that is the reason they are called a strictly typed programming language. One second, let me grab my charger. So these are all as these are difference, major difference. Also, you can call as ASP also, active server pages. This is also a scripting language. Usually, you, with an extension of .aspx, might be heard about this as well. So for HTML, you might be heard about with an extension of .htm or .html, and for JavaScript .js, and for VB script .vb, and Perl.pl and .aspx, and C, and for Java.c. So these are the extensions. So this is a major difference between the scripting language and the programmatical languages. And architecture also almost like HTML, all everything will be on the machine itself. And when it comes to, I mean, like you might heard about that HTTP request, HTTP response. I just give you a short description about that. Like, for example, when I click, you're not seeing HTTP www.skype.com English. Even though I give you HTTP, it is going again. HTTP is removed because all the requests will be an HTTP. Obvious, that is mandatory. So what happens is like when I click www.skype.com, what happens? It goes to the server and it's the server and requests the server saying that I need the home page which a particular user is requesting. So then what happens? That request will be processed at the remote web servers. Then based upon the request, the HTTP response will be returned. And that return is nothing but this page. If it is a dynamic website, if not, nothing, it just directly comes, but server will be remain. It might not be a web server of Apache of that kind, but the server will remain. So this is what a simple example for HTTP request and response. You can get it this architecture of scripts, I mean, like online. I mean, you see this. Okay, just 1 second. Like architecture of scripts execution. Web application. Architecture. 1 second. This is similar one, but okay. Anyways, this is XML. Yeah, you can see this as well. HTML browser client. This is the first half is a browser client where original HTML JS will be there over here, and application server which is eating the server. All the web pages like PHP, JS, .jsp, everything will be reside over here. So this is a browser client. Server side and client side. It's a high level. Yeah, you can see this way. This is a client side and a server side. Usually in the browser, all this can be executable, and this will be requested or taken from the server, which will be an another server like a remote machine. So this is a simple diagram. so where you can get it all these things. And so this is the main difference between the UI development and designing. So when it is coming to the development, we will be much of our focus is on to these client side technologies. And this is like HTML. Usually we know that there are a lot of like what is that, we HTML, we know that. But before knowing HTML, we also, it's better that you know about 1.0 version, like 2.0 version, 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0. Almost many of the most of our websites are developed and run on 4.0, not on 5.0, because 5 is still under development. It's not completely developed version. And why you need to know about 4 is you will be getting lot of websites migrations from 4.0 to 5.0. Then you need to, obviously you need to understand what is the 4.0. If you write at this moment 5.0 is not compatible with all the applications, and you can see all the websites, most of the websites, 80% of websites run on, more than 80% I guess, on 4.0, not on 5.0. And 5.0 supports only the latest browsers, not on the older browsers. And the one best example is like, since as a developer we know what is the upgrading of the web browsers, but an end user never knows how to upgrade it, the browser, until unless there's a specific reason he never upgrade his browser. So your application which is built on completely 5.0 will not be reached to the users who are on, who are using browsers of less compatible. So until unless you have a specific requirement to develop the application on 5.0, you are not using for 5.0 for the development. So it's, you need to know the differences between them. And CSS also, like you might be heard about like, right, two or three, one, two or three. Right now CSS 3 has come into picture. Again, it is already, it's not completely developed as well. And coming to JavaScript, JavaScript is simple as a C language, and very less also when compared with that, because it's not that programmatical language, but it is called as a partial programmatical language if you want. And you can see a lot of concepts over here, like what is a variable, same as a C language. What is a variable, how to declare a variable, what are the if conditions, all those time if conditions, while loops, for loops, for each, everything comes into the picture in JavaScript. So under the JavaScript you can have a jQuery as a libraries, it's a library. And your other things also, like a frameworks like backbone JS, lot many, there are thousands of libraries, thousands of frameworks under the JavaScript. But basically you need to know what is JavaScript and how to develop the JavaScript. And at least you need to know a basic of jQuery library, how to use it for a, for your application. That is very important for these things. So we will be going forward with all the HTML and its features. Mostly I may not cover completely like these things, but at least I'll give you the basic idea about those things, what are they and why they are ignored, and why we are got into 4.0 or 5.0, and CSS as well. So this is all about your UI development, not as a UI designing. Hope I'm clear on these concepts. So this I would like to hear from you now.
Hi, sir. I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
How could we say by looking at the website if it is a dynamic or static?
Good question. But the thing is like, it's not that easy to know, but at least a logic can be implemented on seeing that websites. For example, when it is comes to just closing this, when it is a bbc.com, usually we see a lot of widgets or blogs, something else over here. So today's news will not be, I mean, like seen tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And these all will be upgraded or updated.
So it will be on all server side, right?
It is on server side. You can just see the HTML, CSS. That's it. You cannot see the logic of that, whether this has been implemented in the dynamic side or or the static side. And also you can mislead the users as well, like news dot java. So when a user sees that, which a little technical knowledge, he might think this is something related to java file or jsp files or whatever asp file. I can put that, we can just develop in such a manner like a user can get misleaded, because I can avoid my website to be hacked. So but even though I have developed this website using php, I put it as, I'm showing as a .asp. It means that even though I'm like using that extension, the one user might think that this web application might be built on .asp,
Yeah.
but it is not. It is built on php.
I
So
could
we can do that, we can mislead
yeah.
as well.
I could see the
So
Helpbelly website
yeah,
built on PHP.
yes, this is php. So this is a older website, you can even do that, and you cannot also, you may not also, you just the user's preference, that is, if they wanted they can do that. So when you see there's lots of pages over here, see, I mean, for example, lot of pages and lot of content.
So
See
this
nowadays,
so this
if
is
it is a,
server side
yeah, what is this?
right?
If it is a smaller website, usually the people, I mean, the client prefer to be have a static website. Like for example, just an home page, about us page, or a contact us page, or something about their services. That's it, or 4 to 5 pages. Usually they prefer static websites.
All right.
And if it is the website requires a lot of information and a lot of articles or news or blogs, then that cannot be a static website, because nowadays dynamic websites are almost, applications are affordable and easy to maintain. So that is where we can find it out. And so even we can mislead the users as well. So it is little tough to know what is dynamic and static, but still we can easily make it out. See, online amazon.com cannot be a static website.
Yeah.
Do we think a person sitting at the amazon and he does, I mean, like he uploads each and every product over there and remove the other day? No, right?
Yeah.
So he cannot maintain the stock, everything he cannot maintain static. So obviously we can buy that, we can easily make it out whether that can be built in static or dynamic in there. So I have just given you a overview of how the web is going to be placed and what need to be focused and what not. I just made a overview on this. So before getting into the subject,
Yeah.
yeah. So till now, any questions?
I'm good
Uh,
so far.
Sir,
Good, sir.
sir, can I ask you a question, sir?
Sure.
Can you tell me about XML, whether it is static or dynamic, or like XML is same like HTML, or it's separate type of separate kind of language?
See, XML and HTML are not same. HTML is a scripting language where it tells about the format of your font, format of your text. It doesn't talk anything much about other things. It only talks about the fonts. I mean, like format of your text or the content in your website. That is
Okay.
what HTML does. The duty of HTML is that. And when it comes to the XML, XML is not talks about the content formats.
Okay.
It only talks about your content and a structure of the content. And also HTML is a predefined, I mean, like it has a predefined markup. You cannot use your own and customized markups over there.
Okay.
But XML is not a predefined, it's a custom defined markup.
Okay.
It means like a simple, for example, where do we use an XML is have you heard about Ajax?
Yes, sir, but not into deep.
At least you heard about Ajax, right?
Yes, yes, sir. Yeah.
So generally, where do we use an Ajax?
No, sir, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't
So
know it.
Ajax is something. It's also called as another type of JavaScript, which is called as an asynchronous JavaScript.
Okay.
What it does is like
Mm-hmm.
Ajax will it interacts with the server in the
Okay.
backend,
Okay.
without any user's knowledge,
Okay.
and then it will respond and it will get the results from the server and show to the user without any page load.
Okay.
For
Okay.
example,
Mm-hmm.
when it okay, Gmail. Okay, I'm just getting into the Gmail.
Okay, sir.
So here, when you go to a registration form, it asks for your username, email address, password, whatever it is. It will be create an account. So this is how a registration page of Google, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now the page is static. Now we can say this is a static page. Now what I'll do
Mm-hmm.
is like I just want to put it as a krishna@gmail.com. So
Mm-hmm.
when I click, I mean like move my cursor to the next level, what happens? Someone already has that username. So it
Okay.
means that it went in the backend to the database and checked whether this user email is already available or already taken by someone.
Okay.
So it means that it is doing all the process in the backend.
Mm-hmm.
So that is called as asynchronous way of handling.
Okay.
So programmatically, it is eating the server and getting the results and showing up to the user. And user doesn't know, doesn't have a knowledge about it. Oh, when it even I mean the user didn't I didn't submit the form as well, right?
Yes, sir.
But still it went the request and response has been here now.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what an Ajax will do. And your question, what it says is XML.
Yes, sir.
Usually Ajax nowadays are the Ajax response usually get in an XML formats nowadays when there is a big content pulling from the
Okay.
servers. And why
Okay.
we prefer XML is because XML transfers very faster than other HTML or whatever it is.
Okay.
HTML is very wait and it takes the process time. XML doesn't do that. It is very
Okay.
fast. So that is the reason we go with XML.
Okay.
And a format of XML you might sample dot XML. For example, yeah, XML file, simple XML. Here it is, XML examples. So this is an XML, right?
Yes, sir.
So do you think do you have any styles over here? No, right?
No.
Any fonts? No. Font
No.
sizes? No. Nothing will be there here. You can only see some attributes and a value for that attribute.
Okay.
This is the markup. So whatever, even if you wanted to give any your own name like books,
Mm-hmm.
subject, and a title, and an author, and a published date, you can do that.
Okay. Okay.
XML has that flexibility. HTML doesn't hold that kind of things.
Okay.
And you can go with any type of tree structure. No worries with that.
Okay.
So and it's very simple and very faster than HTML.
Okay.
And for XML, you will be also having XSLT.
Okay. XSLT.
Which,
Yeah.
yeah, which is extensible style sheet language, especially
Okay.
for XMLs.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So this is different. Don't
Okay.
worry.
So it
Yeah.
comes under static pages or dynamic pages, sir?
No, it's not about the development part. It's not related to any static or dynamic. It's only like whatever. If you want to transfer the content very faster, usually we use XMLs.
Okay. Okay, sir. I'm clear. Yeah.
Okay, and you can
Yes.
save the data in XML rather than .txt file. It will be faster than the txt file or .html file.
Okay.
See, nowadays you know that we are using completely databases, but we can even use XMLs as well for storing the data.
Oh. Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
right,
sir. Yeah.
right.
Thanks, sir.
Any more queries?
Are we going to deal with XML as well?
No,
Oh, okay.
we are
Only
not.
HTML and JavaScript, right?
HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and also a jQuery,
Okay.
because jQuery is an important part in your JavaScript.
So, okay.
Most of the websites will be
We
using
are
jQuery.
consuming
Hello, sir. I have a question for you.
Sure.
So, what are we actually going to deal with? UI development? Is it with the JavaScript, or what are we actually going to deal with UI development?
So if we are looking for, I mean, like if you're looking for a UI development, obviously the question is we are dealing with the JavaScript and a
Okay.
jQuery. The JavaScript is your like a C language in your programming languages, where you need to know C language before going to another complex programming languages. You need to know the JavaScript before
Mm-hmm.
going into jQuery or something other frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
So JavaScript is very important for your UI development.
Okay.
So and you just need a less programmatical knowledge before getting into these things. You don't need to worry about you go and learn C language. Not really necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Only that is what I can say.
So, I have a question. One more question. So, you actually told us that some access file or something before the person that one is gonna execute. XML file is gonna execute more faster than HTML. So why are we still using this HTML? Then
Because a browser can understand HTML from the point of user. Because for me, for example, uh, if I show my website with the content, usually a website is just showcasing the content, right? You agree, right?
yeah,
And if I show you my website in an XML format, is that fine for you? Without any colors, without any fonts, without any sizes, without any images, without any extra JavaScript, or I mean like interactivity, is that fine with you?
No, no.
If it is a
Okay.
4 line, then that is
Yes.
okay. But if it is like hundreds of line, you cannot go through that, and you don't understand what is this content about.
yes.
That is
Yes.
why we use HTML.
Okay.
So what should we consider this UI development? Is it client server system or is it completely client system? What is it actually?
Can you repeat again?
what what is this UI development actually we deal with? Is this interactive with both client and server or just the client system or the server system? I'm not getting it.
Generally, you're not even bothered about the server side. What is backend, you don't need to
Okay.
worry about that. What is the technology, your application is using, you don't need to worry about. Your main concern is like what is the user look and feel. You are only concerned about the look and feel of the user end. It means user interface. Like for example, this is a browser. The person who sees the browser, who sees the application in the browser, is called as a user interface.
Mm-hmm.
So you are not a user, never bothers about which technology you are using, which databases you are using, which how complex program you are using. He never cares about that. He only cares is like, does he able to understand the content of the web application or not. He doesn't need a technology. So that that UI developer need to know. I mean, like would be working on that. The look and feels, fonts, and font sizes, colors, background colors, images, and like connecting the pages from one page to another pages. And this is all what UI need to do. And UI concern is all about the user interface, look and feel.
Thank you, sir.
So your a UI completely depend on the browsers, or a UI can be also a desktop application also as a UI. So it's completely depends on the user interface. No need to worry about any background or backend technologies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. Welcome.
Sir, can I ask you another question, sir?
Sure.
Like, are we dealing in future about Angular JS, like Angular UI or something?
Angular JS, not UI.
Okay, Angular. What is
So
the
Angular,
difference between both Angular JS and Angular UI? What is the difference?
when it comes to the web,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when someone says web develop, do you know web development? We generally have a question mark. Does that person talks about .NET? talks about Java or talks about Microsoft or .NET or is talking about PHP.
Okay.
But that person only knows web development. It doesn't care about the technology.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Whether you build in a .NET or whether you build in Java or you build in a PHP, it doesn't care. He only needs a web development has been done or not.
Okay.
So likewise, when it's come to the JavaScript,
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of flavors into JavaScript, like frameworks or libraries can be said.
Okay.
Dojo is another kind of framework.
Okay.
jQuery is kind of a library, predefined libraries. And AngularJS is a kind of framework.
Okay.
Backbone.js is a kind of framework. So
Okay.
there are lots and lots of JavaScript frameworks and libraries based upon the requirement, based upon the organization preferences. Those will get selected.
Oh.
It is not completely dependent on a user. So I'm a developer. If I say to my organization, say I know jQuery very well, I'll do in only jQuery. That doesn't work until the client says go ahead. If the
Okay.
client comes up with a different framework, I need
Okay.
this JavaScript to be developed on AngularJS only. Then you need to work on AngularJS only.
Okay.
So AngularJS, why we are going with the JavaScript is because even if a client says any other JS framework also, you need to understand the basics of that framework. So that is the reason we are going with the JavaScript as an initial basics.
Okay, sir.
Then we are getting into jQuery. So
Okay.
all the frameworks will be one or the each similar. So just the syntaxes will remain a little different.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So same like as your Java, you need to know strings, hibernation, JSP. Those are different flavors, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
sir.
once you know the Java, you can, I mean, like a Java completely, you can easily do a code on different platforms in the Java. Same like a
Yes.
PHP. If you know PHP, you can do WordPress, Drupal, or Joomla, whatever it is. It's whatever it can be. It all depends on the PHP language only. So it would be easy to understand.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
sir. Okay, sir. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. Any other queries?
No, sir.
No, everyone fine?
Yes, sir. We are
Yes.
fine.
Okay, that's perfect. And so, what type of approach you are looking for? Is it like this is the way I want to? I mean, you want me to go, or you want just completely about theory or completely about practicals? See, if it is a theory, I can simply say, I mean, like a type over here, and you can simply see that. If you need a practical approach, at least I can develop some code on the screen, so you can see the difference how it goes.
A practical approach should be good, sir.
That would be obviously better when compared with the theoretical. So we can when you go to W3 school or PHP.NET or some Java, you can obviously get the theory part, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I mean, like if you have any questions towards any concept or topic, you can always reach me. That is already always available. Not an issue with me. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank
So
you.
we'll okay. So I can move with the same approach, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. Thanks a lot. And this is the comfortable timings with you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then perfect then. So we'll be meeting tomorrow then. Okay,
Okay. Okay,
at
sir.
11:30 p.m. IST. Okay.
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 Okay. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Yes,
You
sir.
too, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Srinivas.